Hello guys and welcome to another Ron Gamer video. I was always thinking about making a video where I compared titans of the same element class one by one, especially given the fact that we have this prestige thing in the game right now, right? Because what you want to do is be able to choose the best possible titan to go ahead and prestige. Now, you might want to prestige a Titan because of a particular troop type that the Titan buffs. Now, when it comes to Void Titans, which is going to be the subject of this video, and I hope to do more videos like this as well on different element classes and the remaining six elements. Um, but when it comes to Void Titans, now there are really two types of Void troops we have. One, of course, is the Horde, and the other, which is actually a spell, but honestly, when it's deployed, it's considered a troop, which is the Raised Dead Skeletons, or Skeletons in short, which is how I'll be referring to them in this video. Now, so you may choose to Prestige or Max, or put all you have into Video Titan because he or she buffs one of those two troops, or buffs both of them so well that actually it is a perfect one to go for. So the question then is there one Titan there which is great to buff, or for both a from the perspective of the Horde troops as well as from the perspective of skeletons? That's what we're going to try and explore. I'm not going to make a decision and tell you, hey, this is exactly what you should be doing, because I want to leave that to your interpretation of the data I present. So I will present the data, which is what I've extracted from doing a bit of fair bit of work on DOT database and looking through my Titan halls to come up with this. So hopefully this gives you some idea. So here is the presentation. Now the font is going to be a little bit smaller, so I am actually going to zoom in to kind of get you guys, have you guys look at this. So this table is a comparison of all the Titans that buff skeletons, and the stats you see on the in each column for each Titan is only the skeleton buffs. Now each of these Titans do buff other troops as well. For example, Anubis also buffs Horde, and Almaran also buffs Grenadiers, but this is not what is listed here. It's only the skeleton skills. So if you have a look at, let's take Anubis as an example. So Anubis, although you might see that, hey, actually he's only offering 58% skeleton health and 90% skeleton damage, which are no X skills with the matter, but the prestige skill for Anubis is actually pretty decent. If you look at what it offers, and also note these prestige skills are only listing the skeleton buffs, right? If there are any buffs that are not skeleton related, they are not listed here. So if you look at the skeleton buffs, every 40 seconds the damage of the skeletons goes up by 10%, which isn't too great. Now if you have a 4 minutes battle, you're talking a little bit more than 5 instances, 4 or 5 instances where this will happen. That is, you will get 50% extra buff. So that will still not get the damage to an X skill level of 200% skeleton damage. So that doesn't make it good. But look at what happens at prestige level 10, and this is, of course, you can only get there by fusing in up to 18 or 15 to 18 Titans of the same element class. That's how Void Titans into Anubis. But this is where things get interesting, because if you do actually get to level 10, your damage will be plus 25% every 20 seconds, which is a massive increase percentage-wise compared to level 1 of the prestige level. And that means in a 4 minutes battle, you could see almost, think, 12 instances. The battles are normally 5 or 6 minutes long, but I'm just taking 4 minutes as a sample because most of the battles don't go on for that long. So that means if you get 12 instances, you're looking at 300% damage buff over and above the 90% that you have by default. So that is actually surprising find if you consider that. So Anubis is not the worst candidate, but keep in mind that it's only when you get Anubis to that max level. So yeah, it may not be your first choice, but that's something interesting. Almaran is probably one of the worst Titans that you would want to use for as a skeleton sort of Titan to buff for, because his prestige skills are really average. So what you get is, apart from the skeleton, the Titan itself will get you three level 1, level 2, well, one level 1, one level 2, and one level 3 offensive or defensive skills, which are all random, and you can see the percentages listed on the screen. Um, but the prestige skill is quite a disappointment, because what they say is every time an Omega Grand summons, you get 50% chance to get a skeleton, and at prestige level 10, you get 100% chance. And there are only 4 Omega summons, which means you get 4 skeletons, which isn't great. Baba Yaga, on the other hand, although he doesn't have, or she doesn't have, any prestige skills that buff skeletons, the base stats are pretty impressive itself, because you get 300% damage to the skeletons, you get all the crit you need, and you get 4 skeleton spells, which you would note is absent in Anubis and Almorand. So that's interesting. Now, Asset as well does not offer any prestige skills, but what she does offer, which is normally overlooked, is the fact that Asset actually provides 30% resistance to all elements for her troops, which includes raised dead spells, and also gets 50% damage and 4 skeleton spells. Not the worst candidate for using with skeletons, but Asset's strength remains in the fact that she is a defender. But if you are going to use as an offense, you could, if you want to, use Asset with using the skeletons as a bit of a meat shield, while your maidens, which Asset also buffs, can be fire from the back, but not a candidate you want to have for your maxing out or using as prestiging up. Calvarax. Now this is also a fair bit of disappointment, because Calvarax himself skills are pretty great in terms of skeletons. What you start off with, you get 2x skills, which are offense and defense, random rolls. You can see the stats listed on the screen. So the damage is great. The health, you can get a good roll, and you also get 40% skeleton resist against all elements, which is the maximum you can get on any skeleton titan. So that's where he shines. But the problem is the fact that his prestige skills is a real letdown, um, which is, and it's mainly because there's a limitation on the number of skeletons that you can get from prestige, which is 4. So at level 10, you get a 60% chance to get a skeleton whenever an enemy spell is cast. So if an enemy has 6 spells on his thing, whatever, you can only get 4 as the maximum, and I think that's pretty bad. Also, given the fact that Calvarax doesn't actually have any skeletons he brings himself, because he relies totally on on the skeleton relics. One thing to do note, because Calvarax is a ranger, and Asset is also a ranger. The Bow of Gods relic, which is a 5-star ranger relic, if equipped with them, can actually add another 40% resist. So Calvarax technically, with a single edition of that 5-star relic, can have his skeletons 80% resistance to all elements, and it will be 70% for Asset. So things to note, but there's something just you can do. Osiris, actually, though is considered mostly a buffing titan, actually has got some very good stats for skeletons. Pretty much an X skill for damage and AP. You get critical at 36%, health, a bit of armor, and you get 2 skeleton spells. This is probably my second best titan, I would say, out there at the moment for when it comes to buffing your skeletons, because not only you get skeleton spells, but you get a pretty good all-round buff for your skeletons. But the only problem is that you don't get any resists, you don't get any melee resists and range resists, and we know how important that is. And also the bigger letdown is Osiris's prestige skill does nothing for the skeletons. Does not give you any additional skeletons, doesn't buff the skeleton damage anyway, so that's kind of a letdown. Right, moving on. Of course, this isn't a surprise. The best buffing skeleton titan is a recent released Sekhmet. This might change with the onset of Halloween, where we might see some other new titan come up. As maybe a reskilled version of one, or a new skeleton titan as well. But Sekhmet, which is it's a berserker, void berserker, has got everything you would want. When it comes to attack, you get 360% damage, you get AP, XAP, you get health, armor, you get some melee resist, range resist, and the amazing invocability. So it's an invoking raised skeleton titan, and it's literally got everything you would want. And the number of titans you can possibly spawn on the shield on the battlefield is immense. So that, and to add to that, is the really good skill of healing, and this is the first titan we see in the game with the heal ability. So at level 10, prestige level 10, every 15 seconds, 7 of the weakest skeletons heal by 20%. And this is absolutely fantastic. Also remember that when you have a skeleton which is almost dead on the battlefield, if you drop another skeleton, a new skeleton spell on top of that, it will actually begin to heal that troop if there are some dead enemies underneath that, right? So that, coupled with this effect of healing, can pretty much make the skeletons last so much longer on the battlefield. And you know when you're going an attack, that could just make be the thing you need to slowly kill off any of the troops you want. So there you go, guys. That was the analysis for razor skeletons, but this is not where the video ends. I will now compare the same titans and a few more when it comes to horde titans, and we're going to try and then see if there is one that then I would say that, hey, yeah, this is the one, or you would think this is the one that is good for both skeletons and or Sekhmet, or skeletons or horde, or is there are there two individual candidates that we should be looking at. All right, so here is the horde titans. Anubis, starting with Anubis, with only the horde stats shown. Anubis there as well. Some interesting stuff. You do get, when it comes to prestige skill, you will note that every 40 seconds he actually buffs the damage by 25%. All right, I think I'll have to check that. I think I'm going to leave Anubis out of this because I have a feeling that I've actually copied that. Or actually, it could be right because Anubis I think buffs both skeleton and horde damage. Anyway, we'll leave Anubis out of the question. Let's have a look at Asset and the other titans as well. So Asset here, you get you get for the horde troops X health, X armor, some damage, 30% element resist, 30% void resist. In addition to that, and you get 40% range resist. I think this is one of the best horde defensive titans out there. And she wasn't terrible when it comes to skeletons, being a skeleton buffer as well, but probably one of the lower ranked ones. So Asset is definitely looking like a candidate which could be used to buff both skeletons and horde, but as we shall see, she'll probably fall down the list very shortly. Her prestige skills actually are pretty solid when it comes to horde, believe it or not. Well, if you have one, you would know this already, but prestige level 10, you get a 40% base health buff. And whenever one of your own troops die, that is one of your horde troop dies, if you take horde along, whatever that is, there's 80% chance, which is pretty much 100 really, of getting two shield spells. That is two shield spells being cast on two of your troops, and there are 40 such instances that can happen. So that is brilliant, isn't it? So that is 20 of such 20 times. If 20 of your troops die, you get 40 shields, and that is absolutely fantastic. So this is definitely one of the good ones, because also note that you don't only get the health added, which is also the base health and not just a simple health buff, but you also get damage for your horde increase as well. So I do like that. Baba Yaga is a very strong candidate as well, coming in with the same sort of defensive buffs as Asset, with the slightly reduced melee resist and the absence of elemental resist. But you do get 4 skeleton spells, which I've actually not listed for Asset. The reason I listed it here because Baba Yaga, as you might already know, is a titan that actually produces or causes an increase to the damage of the horde when the skeletons are cast. So yep, so 4 skeleton spells will actually mean that you will get 4 times 25, 100% damage buff and 100% AP on your horde. Prestige skills also decent, but actually Actually, it's not decent. It's actually quite terrible because if you look at what you get, it's whenever your skeleton dies, if you bring in, it doesn't matter how many skeletons you bring, but whenever it dies, even if you bring in 15 skeletons, you're going to get, okay, you're going to get 300% armor buff. You're going to get, your skeletons are, your horde are going to be really, really tanky, but which could be good, which could be useful. Um, but honestly, most of the times when you're taking on most of the defenses, the troops that you're attacking are not going to have AP that's going to be enough to even penetrate 176% armor. So that additional buff is quite useless. So actually, Baba Yaga, big letdown when it comes to Horde. Bast is actually pretty good. I was surprised to see some of the skills because it's all damage with her with a bit of elemental resist. There's no health which you get here, so they're not going to be tanking any damage per se. But they could pack quite a punch. It's not going to, Boss could not probably take down some Hachimans out there, although I've heard some mixed news of people saying that it can. But the prestige skills are pretty interesting because if you look at the prestige skill for Bast, prestige level 10, whenever the Titan that is Bast herself can cast a critical, and which will happen quite often, uh, there is a chance to increase the horde damage by 20%, and there are 5 touch times, so there's a potential of increasing your horde's damage by 100%, bringing the damage of the horde to 460%. So that's one of the biggest numbers you can see when it comes to boosting the damage of your horde. So that is interesting. Osiris, before Osiris, just got to talk Corruptor also has the same sort of buffs for skeletons minus the elemental resist and offers 4 additional Omega Horde. But unfortunately, the Prestige skill does not buff Horde at all, which is kind of a letdown. Osiris, I think, will shine here as well. Not only you get everything you need, you got X health, X AP, X critical, X health, X armor, everything you need for Horde is out there, along with 5 Omega Horde. So it's almost like saying Osiris is taking, taking asset, taking past and putting them together, minus a few things, right? Minus the elemental resist and the melee resist and stuff like that. But it's a solid buff. Prestige skill is also brilliant because you get 50% base health and damage at level 1, going up to 80% base health and damage. And whenever an allied troop dies, there is a potential of summoning Omega Horde with a 30% chance to do that, and possibly to get 5 Omega Hordes at level 10. So Osiris absolutely shines when it comes to that. Sekhmet, not far behind. So Sekhmet also offers all the X skills you want, except XAP for Horde, and that can be a make or break because you're normally if you're gonna take Sekhmet with all Horde, especially against the big meaty defenses such as Hachiman, you're automatically going to be losing 70% of your damage effectiveness because of the armor. You're not going to penetrate the armor. But other than that, yeah, it's got all the other skills you need, along with some melee and range resist, no elemental resist though. And the prestige skills aren't too bad because you can actually you do get base horde damage, but notice that you don't get any health buff as you get with Osiris. So comparing the two, in my opinion, and looking at this table as a whole, Osiris shines as it comes to Horde. And note that Osiris was actually the second best, at least in my ranking, when it came to buffing skeletons. So Osiris is looking a very strong candidate as a as a leader of the Void family. But we do have a few more to cover, and there is Nekros, which is something which I thought of first of all skipping in this table because it's a divine titan, one who can only be obtained by splurging 12,000 or 15,000 divine gems, which not all of us have. But I'll still put it here. So I will make a judgment first based on stats on Titans not including Necrosa, and then we'll have one with Necrosa. So let's start the lefty of Reaver. So Reaver, actually, when it comes to a Titan buffing skeletons, is probably the second best, I believe, in terms of damage, because notice that Baba Yaga can get to 460%. Sorry, not Baba Yaga. There's another Titan there. Actually, not really. All right. Okay. Yeah. Actually, Osiris. Yeah, Osiris and Reaver. If you look at what they can do in terms of damage buff for the skeletons, damage buff to the horde is very similar. Reaver can offer you 400% damage right off the bat, AP and critical, and some melee resist, but no health, unlike Osiris. So that's kind of a big minus for Reaver. But the prestige skills are very comparable to what you get for Osiris. Osiris gets a 50% base health and damage buff from prestige level 1 going up to 80. Reaver starts with only 20 and goes up to 40. But what Reaver does, which is kind of interesting, is that every time terror is cast, the horde armor goes up, which actually becomes relevant for Reaver because Reaver does not have any it doesn't have any armor for the horde to start off with. So if you're at level 10 and you cast 7 terror spells, you can get 7 times 25, which is since 35, 175, I think, or something like that, armor, which is pretty much an X armor skill. So if you max up the prestige, you will actually build up a lot of a lot of armor and also the health, because you're going to get 40% base health, but which is not possible, which is not going to make up for having 234% horde health as Osiris has. So Reaver very, very close to Osiris, but I think Osiris still wins here. Wojet, the Void Guardian, has X health, X armor, no damage, but offers elemental resist and melee resist at 40%, which is really good for defense, especially if coupled with the 5-star Guardian relic. You can basically, by putting that relic on, you can cap or nearly cap the elemental and the melee resists and the range resist with a few relics. And the prestige skill is actually pretty good as well, because you get base health for your horde troops at the start of the battle, and every 40 seconds you get poison cloud on one enemy. I thought of just putting that in. Yeah, so you get 60% base health for the horde damage, which may or may not be that, which is of course not as great as what you get with Osiris. Osiris still offers you more, which is 80% base health and 80% base health, but Budget offers 60%. So yeah, Budget is not too bad. I would probably say Budget will be, in terms of a Titan worthy of prestiging, I'll probably put it at number 2 so far, with Reaver and a close 3. But actually, somehow I'm confused. I may actually go with Reaver as number 2. Sobek was a great Titan when he came out. The Alligator Man, you get X skills and a bunch of resist, 60%, but unfortunately no prestige skill. The prestige skill does not help the horde, actually it just helps himself. So yep, disappointment, not even going to consider that. Ra is kind of disappointing as well. Very similar to Sobek in terms of X skills with some elemental resist, but this Grenadier buffing Horde Titan, Grenadier buffing and Horde buffing Titan, unfortunately has pretty lame prestige skill of having the armor for the Horde sort of 100%, but then decay gradually on defense. If you just look at if you read the text, I think you'll be able to figure out why this is a pretty terrible one to have. All right, finally, let's talk about Necrosa. Actually, yeah, before we get into that, so if I had to say between all the Titans listed here, which is the best Titan to prestige up, max up, etc., etc., I would say I would start with Osiris as my first choice. I would then actually move on to either Reaver or Veget, and actually might do that, or I might actually even go with Sekhmet. So Osiris first, Veget / Sekhmet second, and Reaver next. Alright, but of course this is just what I'm kind of saying, guys. You might think differently. It also comes down to what relics you have as well, of course, remember that. Necrosa then, let's talk about Necrosa. Necrosa, I mean, in terms when it comes to defender, there's literally no other choice. I think Nekros, basically washes everyone out of the water. Because you get X health, X armor, void resist, lightning resist, melee resist, range resist, and every time after 10 seconds after your battle, your horde gain 30% extra armor. It's just incredible. And every third invoke, that is every third time the armor goes up, whatever that is, you get 50% chance to summon Omega Horde. So it's just crazy. That it's 50% because the remaining time it's going to be summoning an Omega Panther. So that isn't that crazy. All right, Prestige skill unfortunately does not buff Horde, which is kind of sad. But do note that there is something interesting that Necrosis offers a shield skill, some sort of shield skill buff. And because shield spells splash, that is, if you apply a shield spell to a bunch of accumulated troops that are gathered together, it'll actually apply shield to all of them. So that's why it's relevant. Prestige level 10 can get you, whenever Panther's health goes to less than 50%, you can get up to 9 shield spells at level 10 along with 70% Panther health buff, and that shield can also apply to any horde that you bring along with Necrosa. Alright guys, I think that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you found this self-analysis interesting. I will kind of just, before I kind of end this video, just freeze the screen for a few seconds to let you see and take screenshots if you need of this table. I'll try and publish a version of this on Facebook if you want to check that out. But other than that, it was nice having a little video on this with you guys. If you like this, let me know. I'll try and make more on other elements. But other than that, guys, that's it. I'll catch you all in another video.